Hello, friends, and welcome back to Dentistry Unmasked. My name is David Rice. I'm Chief Editor of DentistryIQ with always
Hey everybody, Pamela Maragliano-Muniz. What is up today?
all things are good today. It's another sunny day in Florida. How's Salem, Mass doing?
It's actually sunny out, which is really good. No, it's going to be a great
Yeah,
day. We have an amazing guest,
We
and
do.
I am thrilled to welcome Dr. Paresh Shah. Welcome.
I thank you, Pamela. Thank you, David. Glad to be here. I think we have a sunny. Oh no, it's a cloudy day now in Winnipeg. So, but we've had lots of sun. It's been nice the last little bit, but yeah, looks like it's cloudy. That's all
It
right.
happens. We're here for
Yeah, it
dentistry
happens.
anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we
It's
work
all
better
good.
when it's cloudy. I do. If it's
I
too
think
nice
so.
outside, I kind of want to be out there.
Oh, I know. I For years I didn't have windows in my office except in the reception area. And now I've got windows everywhere. And as soon as you see the sunlight, it's like, maybe we should be outside. Yeah,
Though,
I
it's
agree.
true, but I have, I guess, my operatory faces, what is it, rises in the east, sets in the west, a west-facing operatory.
Yeah.
And in the late afternoon, I mean, maybe I'm a little bit of a vampire. There's too much sun coming into my operatory. I feel like I can't see. I feel like it's a little hot in there. So I agree. I would take a cloudy day at work.
I like
Yeah.
that.
No, I agree.
Listen, speaking of offices, though, you've done some cool things over the years, and it wasn't all that long ago that like you totally retooled and built new, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I bought a building. Um, Geez, I believe I turned 58. I bought a building that came up just a few blocks away from where I am. And I just love dentistry, just like the two of you. I just love what I'm doing. So I'm sitting here and I tell my wife, who's in corporate finance, I'm like, hey, there's a building that finally came up. And she's like, well, okay, but if you're going to be on the road like 30 times a year, what the hell's the point? And it's like, all right, all right. So anyway, bought the building and then we started designing an office and COVID hit. And it was like, damn, like now what do I do? And we had it all designed. And then it was like, you know what, let's just do it. So between 2020 and 2021, we designed and built the whole space. And I moved in April of 2021. And it's been 3 years. Most of my friends, I think they're practicing and winding down. Some of them still want to keep practicing, but a lot of them sold to DSOs or others. And I just didn't want to. I just want to own my own place and I want to just do it my way. So it's been 3 years, well, 3.5 years, and definitely the happiest. I mean, we all go through different stages in our careers, right? So I don't think there's just one thing. I obviously it was a pivot, and but I would say I'm the happiest I've been clinically in the last 3 years, for sure.
Do you
It's
think
been
it's the
great.
space that made all that difference, or is there something else going on?
Great question. Both. I think the space helped rejuvenate. Um, I changed almost my entire team. There were a lot of people holding me back. It was scary. It was hard to do. And truthfully, the when we ended up having that shutdown like we all did during COVID, you have a chance to reflect and sit and be introspective and go like, oh damn, like what do I really want this to look like? And then it's like, okay, well, let's just do it because we don't know what's going to happen when all of us are allowed to get back to work. We don't know if we'll be practicing or how we're practicing dentistry, if I'm even going to have a staff. So why don't we just have a reset? And I did. So that was one. And then the other is again, you're chasing dreams, I guess. I think about that Academy Award speech from Matthew McConaughey when he's talking about looking at things now and then forward. And it's like, yeah, well, we're just we don't know where, and it's okay to pivot. as long as it makes sense in your life and you're not doing harm and all that. So, all right, well, let's just figure out what this next 10 plus years looks like and stay healthy and let's have some fun. And I think with all of my career, my previous 10 years, it's 33 years. So let's say my previous 10 years, I spent a lot more time focusing not on my practice, just working in my practice. And I think both of you probably understand that because you both do a lot of travel, a lot of lecturing, a lot of teaching, and you also have a lot of colleagues. Some of us probably have some similar friends who've been doing it longer than us that are saying like, hey, what about your practice? Are you focusing on it because you're doing all this? And yeah, I'm doing that. And I realized I wasn't focusing on my practice. So I didn't have that connection with all my patients over this period of time that I thought I did. And so I just wanted to refocus all of that. And man, that was long-winded, but those were the differences. Is just refocusing on what I wanted to do, refocusing on my patient care, and having the team to empower me to be able to get that done.
So
So
Pam, you
you
retooled your team too, not like crazy long ago, and I see you smiling. So this is a big piece of it, isn't it?
It's everything, actually. Yes. So I actually, similar to you, I always say it was like my Jerry Maguire moment where you were closed and you had time to think about it and you were like, I can't do this anymore. And I replaced my entire clinical team during the pandemic. So, and my practice is unrecognizable now compared to what it was, and in such a great way. So, yeah, I feel like for people out there that are like feeling like fearful to get rid of team members because you can't find somebody better, or you're just I always think of you, David, because of your book. Like, is everybody smiling but you? Like, are
Hmm.
you making everybody comfortable in your practice, in the meantime making yourself miserable? I mean, it's got to change. And I used to hear people say, oh, I love practice, it's so great, and I used to think it was a bunch of crap because I was like, there's no way.
Yeah,
Like, I like the dentistry, but like my team's not my family, and no way.
yeah.
And now I feel so differently. So yeah, I think what you've done is incredible. But you also said focus on your practice, not just sort of work in your practice. What
Right.
little pieces did you think were missing?
So as we're moving and planning this move, you start realizing and you start looking at, okay, I go through past photos of cases that I've done, or I'm looking at charts and I'm going like, oh, well, what happened to that family? Or what happened to this person? And you start realizing that if you're not around, like, what's the point if either there's no dentist on a date or there's a part-time associate, a transient, well, then hey, why don't I may as well just go to my parents' dentist or my wife's dentist or my husband's dentist. So I I I did realize, even though I wasn't fully aware or thinking about it, that I didn't have as strong a connection with some of my patients that I thought I had. And that was something that I wanted to change. I still have a lot of patients that I've had over the last 25 plus years. But there are some when you look and go, man, I really enjoyed that family, and it's too bad they're gone. And you have to understand, like I'm a person of that will always look at what I have control over before blaming somebody else. So I didn't look to blame, oh, well, it's because of this team member or this thing or ours. It was like, okay, what could I have done differently? And I think it is just taking the time to not only build a connection, but maintain that connection, which means it might just be that extra 5 minutes when they come in. And when you think about that, if you've got, 15 hygiene patients, adding an extra 5 minutes is a lot of lost production time. But that value is so key 5 years and 10 years down the road that you can't put a dollar value on them. And I think that was part of my what I realized I needed to do was slow down, not have roller skates, just double chair, boom, 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 boom. Don't get me wrong, there are days like that, but take those minutes to just go, hey, Pamela, how are you doing? How's the family? How did that graduation of your kid go last week? Like, tell me something. Yeah, that was a big thing.
That's first of all, your ability to look in the mirror as opposed to look outwardly is incredible because I think it's very easy. And I know I've been guilty of here's a problem and where's that coming from? Because clearly it can't be me when most of the time it really was me. So that's impressive to
Yeah.
have that quality. But so we have all these young professionals, young dentists who come and tune into this, and they have maybe some different circumstances or challenges than we presently have because we've been in dentistry for a period of time. How do you, what advice would you give them to say, hey, listen, I know you're going to make your own mistakes, but I've been doing this for a little bit, and me shifting gears at this stage of my career, here's what I would do if I were you, even though I have this debt and even though I'm trying to get from maybe a foundation place to a higher place, like how would you share that with them?
Well, I still believe that building trust and confidence with the team that you work with and with your patients are are going to be key to give you confidence, to give you experience in terms of how you communicate. And so I still believe it's important to not just walk in and strut that, hey, I'm the doctor and I know what's going on. Like just take those extra few minutes to just build connections. It's really important. It's funny, had dinner with a couple of friends who've been practicing a fair amount, like over 20, 25 years. And we had with a young associate we were talking to the other night. And one of my friends gave that advice. He said, listen, as you go in there right now, you got to build confidence with the team. The team has to trust you because if they trust, and it's not going to happen in 1 or 2 months, it's going to take, my friend said, I think it's going to take 6 to 12 months if you're working part-time. But once you build confidence, as soon as you're comfortable with the patients, the team is going to also help facilitate case acceptance and treatment acceptance because they're going to go, yeah, she's a rock star. Like we trust her. And so I think it's about building relationships. I really do. It sounds weird because that's not what we're taught in dentistry. We're taught to fix teeth. We're not taught to communicate. Yeah.
It's important.
Yeah.
It is
Uh, the,
important.
uh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say it is important, but I also have to wonder, so you built this new practice and you have this different outlook and perspective. Did you
Yes.
build these like warm fuzzies within your practice, like to make patients feel more comfortable or to make the team really comfortable? Were there things that you were mindful of going into this new space to try to create this environment?
Yeah. So pre-COVID, I started working with a management coach. Some of you might know her. Her name is Jerry Godley. She goes GG Practice Consulting. So I met her through Michael Cohen, Seattle Study Club, and Jerry's husband Bob, who was retired periodontist and used to work with Michael Cohen in Seattle for years. And I wanted to change the culture and everything. And I remember calling her, Michael had introduced us, and her approach with me was not about, well, what can I do to fix your team? It was like, let's talk about leadership. And that was a bit of a shocker because it was the focus was on how are you leading? I guess um, it's that thing like if you want to change a response, you got to also change the way you approach things. So we worked on leadership, created a new vision and strategic anchors, and then she helped me kind of present this to the team. And a couple of people who were with me for a long period of time just didn't buy into the vision, which I think you could have used it at a Dunkin' Donuts, at Starbucks, or whatever, or a law firm. But so that was obviously a disconnect with me, not with the values. And so once we did that, I started realizing a couple of the barriers were gone that I wasn't aware of, because I thought, oh, they've been with me a long time. They're part of my team, when they weren't. That's when I, started seeing other people level up. So what I did was I genuinely focused on finding team members based not on clinical experience and dental experience, but on personality and work ethic, which is very hard. Like talking when you're getting your references, like how hard were they working? Did they always show up? Did they call in sick all the time? And I focused on that, and then I just trained them on all their clinical and other things. So now, no word of a lie. So it was the culture, Pam. I tried to change the culture, but I had to do it myself. Now I still make everyone accountable. I still am always like, okay, well, what about, because the repetition is important. Sometimes, and I don't know, some people call it micromanaging. I do some of that, but it's important. I want people to understand that we have systems, we have a way that we want to do things. And now when I'm away, so the first time where I'd been away from a full week was when I went to a symposium last year in January, and I didn't have one email or one text about work. And I've never had that. And when I got back, it wasn't a lot of stuff, because we had set up a culture and a system that the answers were there, because I want my team to be empowered, that if David calls and says, hey, my tooth broke, or this happened, what can you do? I don't want them to say, well, let me wait until he comes back and I'll let you know what he says. They should be able to, for 90% of the issues, be able to give you an answer and find you some sort of a path or solution without calling me. And that's what I've been able to do.
So would you say, I'm going to like take this a little step further. So for those
Yeah.
people that are not really happy maybe with their team, or they don't feel really professionally satisfied by what's going on in their practice, for maybe their outcomes aren't what they want to be, like obviously we all have challenges that I find they just sort of ebb and flow. But would you almost say, if you have a challenge that's kind of frustrating you, or something that's going on at work that's just not sparking joy, that maybe you have to tweak your leadership skills? Like maybe instead of being like, that person's always late, oh, I don't like that, maybe like we start with us first and then see if things fall in line.
Yeah. It was hard for me to accept that. It and it's interesting, because that's when, during a time where I was having struggles with the whole thing, with all of it. This was probably back in 2018, 2019 time, um, and not feeling happy going to work, and literally, no word of a lie, like sitting in the car going, oh man, this is my practice and I do not want to work with this person. Like that's bad feeling. And then having your family also say, look, like perhaps it's your approach. Perhaps it could be you. Um, and so when you have multiple people kind of that you respect and care for, and friends that you respect, um, say, hey, maybe it might be better if you can make some changes, then at least you can see with a clearer lens where the problems are. And so that's where it started me. So I totally agree with you. I think it's important. It's no different than I always tell patients, and this is even for clinical dentistry. And I'm not trying to go aside, but um, I remember one of the people that changed my life Paul Belvedere when he was alive from the University of Minnesota. And I remember because I was struggling with bonding. This was back in the late 90s. And he said to me, Paresh, he started grilling me with all sorts of questions about my procedure. And I'm trying to give him answers, but they were vague and he wanted very specifics. How many seconds I'm doing this, how long I'm scrubbing, and all this. And he says, Paresh, you have to take control of what you're doing so that you know what's happening. It's you. It has nothing to do with the materials and the products. It has to do with you. And it's the same thing with this. Like, okay, how much control do I have to get a better response? Am I good at it? Am I great at it? No, I'm not. I still make mistakes. So I started looking, okay, if I can shape everything and if I have control over my um, execution, then I can look at a filter and go, okay, this person's just not responding anymore. So maybe we can move them out of the way. So yeah, I do think totally that it has to start from within because we can't change someone's response. We can only change our response to how they react to us. I can't change both of you.
Yeah, I'll tell you, one of the perfect examples of this is, my partner Mark from my practice. Mark is a person of very few words, but people are always watching him. So they see his behavior. They know he's someone who can be counted on. They want they want to follow him. He's just like a natural leader who doesn't have to, he's a presence in how he acts. So he really is somebody, if I look at like he's created the circumstances and the foundation, and that helps us from a cultural standpoint to say, okay, here's where we are, and everybody is safe and they can do it. And then it becomes a matter of development. And then last but not least, Pam, like you said, like, okay, now maybe I'm looking at, does somebody have the will to be the best team member they are? But Mark's a great example of what you're sharing, Paresh. And I think that's important for all of us we have to look at ourselves first. And if we're doing our job, then I think we can expect others around us to do it. But hey, if I'm not showing up, it's really hard for other people to show up. So you wrote a book, and I'm going to say there's a lot of dental things in there, but are there elements of what we're talking about in that book, as far as, treating beyond the single tooth? It's about more than just the dentistry from what I'm hearing today.
Yeah, it is. And I think when uh, in the intro, and then there's also a chapter on with the team. So I talk about that. But the book's like beyond the single tooth, like treatment plan whole mouth dentistry, and it's about my journey and how I started looking towards treating the whole mouth rather than just fixing teeth. And so the, the way I set up the book was case based, like how do you just take a step back, look at the entire patient, and then how do you start like analyzing the records that you're gathering to to realize that there's more to it than just restorative dentistry, and also trying to look and go, look, can the outcome be improved by including someone else, meaning other specialists. um, and so yeah, it's kind of laid out that you could read like one chapter if you want and get something, or you could read the whole thing and get something because it's just looking at cases and how I looked at it, or myself and my specialists look at it. So, but it does talk. Yeah, I do make references about it because it's I'm sharing like earlier years, like this is what we knew. These are the procedures we had available to us back then, and how might we look at it differently right now. So it's a little bit of all of that, just and some good self-reflection as well. Yeah.
Well, I have a question about
Yeah.
this because I feel like I love my practice and I love it more and more now that I had my team change. And I think it was, about me more than the team, in the sense where I
Yeah,
needed to just accept, not even accept, I had to decide that I needed to have the confidence that the patients were going to stay because of me and because of what I stand for
right.
versus who also is in the practice with me, team wise.
Correct.
And so that took a while. Like that took the pandemic to happen. Honestly, if it wasn't for the pandemic,
Yeah,
I could still be dealing with that team. I mean, I don't know what would have happened if I didn't
yeah,
have those 3 months off to think about it. And I love sharing how much I love dentistry and how much I love my team and how not only do I love what I do, I'm enjoying my patients more. I love my team. We can chat about different things. Like it's more fun. But I had to get
right.
to that point. And I feel that it's taken years to get to where I am. And I can't wait to be where I am when I've practiced as long as both of you, because I mean, I can't imagine loving dentistry more now. And the fact that there's more to
Right.
love down the road, like that's so exciting.
Mhm.
But the reality is new dentists come out and they've got this debt, and
Yeah,
if they have the confidence that say we have right now, it's probably there's not a lot to back it up. And so you have to
right.
gain that. But like, what would you tell a young dentist? Like how to get to this point where, because they have got all of these external pressures that we didn't have before. I mean,
Right.
obviously we
Yeah,
had debt, but it wasn't as exorbitant as it is now. So
yeah,
how do you balance that to have, you have this debt, you have this pressure, you might be working in a DSO, a good or bad, indifferent one, who knows?
yeah, yeah.
But there's this opportunity where you can truly love what you do. But like, how do we get them there other than just putting in the years?
Well, that's a great question because I think one of the biggest hurdles is what you brought up is just the debt load and trying to service that because you've got to figure out a way to do that. And it's admittedly even worse in the US than it is in Canada because the Canadian dental schools, I mean, it's a large debt, but it's not like 700,000 US and that sort of thing, but it's still there. So, well, Canadians are not dismissive of the debt we have here, but um, I think a few things. One is experience is important. Just getting in there and getting your feet wet. Like if you're if you're just diving into doing a whole Pankey or Coyce or Spear something like right away to stick a diploma on the wall, like that's not what it's about. It's about a journey of building towards something. I know John, like I've done all of the Coyce stuff and some Spear, and John always says, look, it's like a residency. It's like a pros residency, but you do it over your own pace over a period of time. So I see some young kids just wanting that because they want that on the wall so that they can say, hey, I finished this whole thing and look at me. I think mentorship's so key. I really, really do. I think finding a couple, like an established dentist, whether you can work with him or her in the practice or you have them to guide you. Like if someone was able to find one of you two that you're mentoring and you're not in their practice and just guiding them on how enjoyable dentistry can be and teaching them how to communicate and talk to the patients, they can still do their dentistry and pay their bills. I always tell them though, I say, listen, like you got to decide, like if you want to just fix teeth or you want to treat the patient in the mouth. It's hard to distinguish because I truly, I believe that dental schools can't, they're not in a position and they don't have the capacity and they don't have the instructors in undergrad to teach comprehensive dentistry. They, they're teaching us skill trades and we're technicians and we come out fixing teeth, not looking at everything. And I think for those young dentists, if they're willing to be mentored and understand how to treat the entire mouth, now you've got a patient for life. Because otherwise, all you're seeing is just, here's a tooth, it's broken. Let's put a filling or a crown on it. Let's put another filling or a crown. And we're not looking at occlusion. We're not looking at wear. We're not looking at function. We're not looking at any of that because it's taught piecemeal in undergrad. So there's very hard to connect those dots and go, wow, this was, I mean, I still remember my prosthodontist, in second year talking about the occlusion on cusps, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Now I look back and go like, holy crap, he was telling me something. And so I think mentorship is so key. I really, really do. I think finding good dentists and clinicians that just look at the whole mouth is so key with these young dentists, but they have to be open to it, Pamela. They have to be open to wanting that mentorship.
Most definitely. The other thing I have to bring up though is we talk about, and we know, I mean, I'm being pros and I
Yeah,
love comprehensive care, 100%. However, there's a fine line between comprehensive care and say a new dentist where they haven't established trust,
right.
recommending 8 restorations, 8 crowns, something the first time, second time they're meeting
Oh,
somebody. That is like the kiss of death, at least in my practice,
totally
my
agree.
experience. So,
Uh,
I think you're
totally
right.
agree.
I think getting into a practice, getting into a groove, trying to figure out, where you're comfortable within your own skin, and then learning how to comprehensively treatment plan and how to convey your findings to
Right.
a patient without coming off like, hey, you need 8 crowns, you need 8 restorations. Like, you want to come,
Totally.
how about right now? Let's do it right now. Like, that's
Yeah,
one of the worst things we could do.
I 100% agree with you. And I guess I should have qualified that. Okay, I can go through my experience. When I started seeing, I bought a practice. I took over a practice from a retiring dentist about 3 years in, and all of a sudden, I'm just seeing just all sorts of stuff, and I'm responsible for this now. And I didn't know what to do, and it was frustrating because all I knew was, oh, I don't know how I can get a filling or a crown on you. I don't know how I can even keep a tooth in place. So I was just like, I got nothing for you because I just didn't have any mentoring. And so one of the, but I guess what I mean about looking beyond the tooth is if I can, like, I'm not a big fan. I 100% agree with you. I'm not a big fan of all these people that are just coming in and just taking a weekend course and they're like all of a sudden doing a full arch of fillings and crowns, like because cutting all these teeth down. But I guess when I talk about looking at the whole mouth and looking at comprehensive, it's like what are some like treatment planning? It's not a sexy thing when people go, well, what courses do you take? And I said, look, if you want to get really good with composites or you want to get really good with maybe simple endo, like I'm not talking about molars and all this stuff. Yeah, you take a course and you can execute that and probably implement that right away when you get into your practice, like the next week, because you can take a really good hands-on course and do that. But if you want to do all these other things, like, oh, I want to do veneers, I want to do veneers. Okay, well, what is a veneer to you? Do we want to go to Turkey and spin them down, or do we
Mhm.
want to just do little contact lenses? And that comes from treatment planning. And if when you're doing that, that will either come through mentorship or it'll come through a continuum, in my opinion. And you got to go through like a spear continuum, a Coyce continuum, a Pankey continuum, or something like that, or go back to grad school. So, what for me, one of the aha moments was realizing that if I would recommend ortho to my patients, and I don't do a lot of ortho at all, very, very minimal, maybe 5% of my practice. And I put the teeth in the right spot. I can do single tooth dentistry for them for their entire life. And that that epiphany came, I don't know, maybe 8, 9 years in practice, and I wish it came sooner. And so I have way more patients now that will go through that. And the second thing that I did in my practice to change the care and the level of acceptance of treatment for my patients is bring in, like, treat the perio. I'm not a periodontist, and I work great with the periodontists that I work with, but foundation, and I focused on those two things, and all of a sudden my patients are like just healthier, and they're assuming responsibility for their conditions. And now all of a sudden I got this. It's a lot easier to do comprehensive dentistry because I kind of changed the culture for the patients as well.
I like that. I Pam, I mean, here we are again. I don't know how the heck we spin through all this time as quickly as we do.
I
So
know.
it's crazy. But there's so much good stuff. I'm pressure. We could talk to you for like 100 hours. I'm gonna go with my one word take home from today is
Yeah.
perspective and our ability to evolve as leaders and clinicians. Some of that perspective has to be inside out. Some of that perspective we can gain from mentors and other people, whether it's on leadership or it's clinical skills or learning patient perspective. So we build relationships and trust. But I'm loving all this stuff. I want to keep talking more. So we're gonna have to do this again sometime. Pam,
Yeah.
final
No, love it.
thoughts?
Same. I feel like we just had like a really great dinner. Like I just feel like this
Yeah, I know. I was
conversation.
thinking the same thing. I,
Yes.
So
I'm
no,
like, I'm really happy for you, Pam. Like, I can see it in your eyes when you're talking about your practice, and and you're saying what's going to happen down the road. I'm not worried about you because I can tell right now. It, however you pivot and evolve, it's. I think you're going to love it because you found what that passion in dentistry is about. And I think everyone, and David, you deal with so many students and young kids coming out just 2, 3 years out of school. Um, not, and we realize we can't influence every single one of them, but we can try our best to inspire them, right? And and the ones that you do, you just love seeing them because 5 years later they come back. Hey, thanks for what you said to me in dental school when I was in my fourth year, and that sort of thing. It probably makes you feel great. But we try our best, all three of us, to try and inspire as many people as we can, and that's what we just got to keep doing, and trying our best. And we can't change everybody, but the ones we do, you know what? I just look at it and go, that means we've impacted thousands of patients, thousands of their patients, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. Well, you're an inspiration to me, Paresh. You're truly, I love all the things that you do. And I especially love that you came back where most people would say, hey, it's time to coast and just not reinvented yourself, but totally reinvented like a new practice and a new place and an
Yeah,
evolution of your vision. And I think it's a tremendous take home for every dentist of every age.
yeah,
And so wherever you are in this timeline, like look at yourself where you are and where you want to be and know that it's always possible. And
absolutely.
yeah.
my goodness.
I know you're
Yeah.
like a Madonna of dentistry in a great
Thank
way. So, Paresh,
you.
I know I love following you. Where can everybody follow you?
You know what? It's on Instagram at Dr. Paresh Shah, Paresh and yeah, myself. I think you've had my buddy Funny, who, for years he's considered. He says, "Hey, you're a mentor," but that kid's a mentor as well. And my friend Gordon, we do put on some courses called Elevate Dentistry, and just basic courses for dentists as well. So either Elevate Dentistry or Dr. Paresh Shah. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I
Thank
can't wait
you.
to see you in person, and I wish you the best of
Yeah.
luck
Look
with your
forward to
new
it.
build, and I hope it just continued success.
And both of you as well. I I always enjoy following both of you and meeting you whenever we get a chance. And I appreciate the time.
Thank you. All right,
All right.
everybody. This was a
Okay.
good one. And
Thanks a
I
lot.
can't wait till I'll see you next week. Have a great week.
All right.
Cheers, guys.
Take
Bye.
care. All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to the show this week. And thanks to our guests and sponsors on this episode.
Please check out our social media at Dr. Pamela_Maragliano and at Dental Economics Official.
Or you can check me out at igniteDDS or at Dr. David Rice.
And go to dentaleconomics.com to receive dental economics. You can choose to receive DE in print or digitally, and you can also get the details of our Principles of Practice Management conference on our website.
If you have topics or guests or anything you'd like to talk about on the show, send us an email to dentistryunmaskedpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to make it happen. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.